Welcome, everyone. Now, AI generation has quietly moved from cool experiment to something that's reshaping how B2B marketing is actually working, from speed and personalization to funnel performance. Now, today we are unpacking what the rise of AI image models really mean for marketers, event teams, HRs, and L&D leaders. And let's not forget the founders. And why visuals are no longer just design assets but strategic tools. I'm here joined by Harsh, who has been exploring how image models and context aware agents are changing the way brands communicate. So, just let's dive in. Starting with the question, I would like to ask that how image generation feels. Certainly feels like it went from a cool experiment to wait, this is everywhere. You know, Especially in the B2B marketing, it became something clearly shifted with this. So, what has changed, and why should marketers actually care now about this?
So, see, I mean, we have to look at things in this way. When image models came in the market, there was a level of compute that they were able to access. But now, because of the technological progress that we have made, and because of the user interfaces that has been built on top of those models, it has become very easy for anyone with an internet to go and use these models. I think for a B2B marketer today, the approach should be, how can I have a more personalized uh, reach out to my audience,
Hmm.
but at the same time, keeping the context of what my business is and run multiple iterations on top of it, not just one. So, like, that's one place where the image models can definitely help them.
Let's ground this. When we say image models, what are we actually talking about in practical terms for a marketer?
An image model is basically an AI that knows how to run a diffusion model at the back end and generate pixels for you based on what you told it in the natural language. It is as simple as that, right?
Hmm.
The beauty today is, because these models have become stronger,
Hmm.
because these models have character consistency, because these models have brand consistency, you can now give them context that they could be aware about, and then generate assets based on top of that context.
Why the B2B visuals, like they have been historically been, let's be honest, pretty generic. So what breaks the AI image models as compared to this generic comparison?
See, I will be really honest over here, okay? When we look at products or images or assets that are generated today,
Hmm.
right? You can definitely differentiate what's AI versus what's not AI.
Hmm.
Because, like everything was generic in the past,
Hmm.
that past that past generalization has been used as a training data to train these models at the end of the day, right? So what I would suggest is, if you want to stand out and yet end up using these models, you will need to work more on your system prompts to let the model be more aware about what your brand stands for, what is the voice of your brand, what is the identity of your brand, and then go to a place where it generates assets that are unique to you, not generic across the board.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. So now, if I have to ask you this question, where does AI image fit in the funnels? And let's start with tofu. Where do AI image shine most at the top?
There are two approaches to it, right? I mean, they the way they would fit at the top of the funnel is when they are trying to explain the context of what their product is to the end user, and they
Hmm.
want a great image or an infographic that could be, representing that. A
Hmm.
great example of this is Nano Banana Pro. People
Hmm.
are using Nano Banana Pro today to generate infographics, which are then used as marketing collateral to drive awareness about their platform.
Yeah.
So I think this is where AI images can be definitely useful.
Once the buyer moves into consideration, what are the things that one needs to be careful about?
What are the visuals that are helping the buyer evaluate the product and
Yeah.
understand whether it will lead to a decision or not, right?
Hmm.
Like, for example, a platform like Airmeet, right? Like, it will tell the buyer more about, hey, you can have more engagement at your event using our tool, or there are networking format, or the analytics on top of the event, right?
Hmm.
And these are like well designed, well articulated collaterals that, even if AI generated, actually communicate the message that will lead a buyer more towards a point where they end up deciding about your product. So
Right.
I think you should focus more on the messaging and how it's persuasive enough for the person who is seeing it.
Right. Yeah. And if we have to talk about what changes at the bottom of the funnel, like Bofu, if we have to specifically talk about that.
I will be very honest over here. Okay,
Mhm.
a lot of SaaS platforms, what they are doing today is they are using AI generated images of the customer and putting that in the testimonial. I think this is one place where I would suggest the platform to not use AI, right?
Absolutely.
If you are having a testimonial that is coming from a great customer, put their original photo or put their logo. Don't
Mm.
put an AI generated image that is actually going to make the customer feel like, hey, is that AI generated? Like, should I go away from it? You know,
Mm. Will just
it's
repel.
not a fake testimonial. They
Yeah,
should not feel that.
true, true. And there's always this question that where does AI win and where do humans still matter? I mean, this is the top question. I think, regardless of any industry and how AI is going, this will always be there, the human element and how human perceive it. So, what do you have to say about that?
I think it's very simple, right? The future belongs to those who will understand how to work with AI instead of working against it, right?
True.
And the way I see it is, how can you have more velocity in your product development? How can you have more variations in your development? Think about it this way, right? Uh, there was a very uh, smart line in the Michael Fassbender movie Steve Jobs, which was like, musicians play the instrument, I play the orchestra. Steve
Mm,
Jobs said to Steve Wozniak. And
mm,
I think that's the game with AI, right? You need to learn how to play the orchestra. You need to orchestrate the agents to work for you.
yeah. One of the strongest ideas in the account level personalization is that why is this such a big deal? So, what do you have to say about that?
Because people at the end of the day want to see individuals, right? The
Mm,
human to human connection still exists,
right.
right? An AI image model at the end of the day is very generic. Like, a lot of this is made on Western data, but you
Yeah.
can have customers in South Africa or India. Can your AI image model help you be relatable to these customers? I don't know, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Hmm. Now, let's come to the concerns. If suppose a concern team often raises brand consistency, how do
yeah.
you scale visuals without losing control?
I think this is more about just using the right tools and the right prompts, right? You need to figure out that, hey, if I'm using Claude, have I made the right skills to manage the consistency? Have I used the right plugins? Have I spoke about the right color patterns, right? Like, can you, instead of telling the agent that, hey, use red color, can
Hmm.
you define the hex code of the brand so
Hmm.
that it makes sure that it manages the right thing? And you need to define those models, set up the LoRa, which is low rank adaptations for
Yeah.
it, to make sure that it follows those consistencies.
how should marketers measure success with AI generated visuals?
See, the beauty of AI generated visuals is you can iterate a lot and you can create multiple visuals at the end of the day,
Hmm.
right? So the clearest signal that you can get is, hey, I have, instead of me going to a graphic designer and asking them to create two visuals for me to run A/B testing ads, I can today run 50 visuals and 50 different ads targeted at 50 different people and
Hmm.
understand what is the ad ROAS and what is the click through rate that I'm getting,
Yeah.
right? And I would want to focus on how a particular kind of asset and how a particular kind of brand language
Hmm.
is leading me to more conversions.
Hmm.
So focusing on that
Yeah.
and focusing on what style leads to conversion is something that marketers can work on a lot.
So now let's bring this home. Why does all of this unlock specifically for Airmeet style teams?
For a team which is like Airmeet, right? Like these AI models can definitely help us in generating more personalized event planning plans, pages, more industry specific content, so that the audience can relate more. And of
Hmm.
course, as I said, that we are able to generate a lot of creatives to make sure that we are able to A/B test properly and understand the conversion properly.
Yeah.
So this is something that a team like Airmeet can definitely gain from using these AI models.
So for the final thought, if you had to sum this up for B2B marketers listening in, how
Hmm.
would you do that?
Have a creative person who has an amazing taste
Hmm.
and figure out a mechanism to scale that text taste with faster iteration,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So this is the first time after a very long time we are able to scale taste and get feedback on top of it.
Yeah.
I think every marketer should make use of it right now.
Yeah.